Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the In Between the Stitches podcast. I am your host, Brady Wilson. Without my co-host, Chase Solschwanger, unfortunately, he will be calling in today, I assume, for the football segment. Let me go ahead and text him. But we have some breaking news for two DFW teams, which I find to be very interesting that we get that, hey, something's changed. Because typically what happens is we do the podcast, and then the next day or a couple hours later or a couple days later, boom, breaking news. And so it's kind of nice to have, earlier this afternoon, the Cowboys have hired a new defense coordinator, finally, and the Rangers just made a big-time trade. So we'll get to all of that here in a second. But of course, we usually start with the Dallas Stars. And there's been, there's some NHL dominoes have been falling lately. Rasmus Andersson has been traded. There was one more that got traded that I know the Stars had interest in. They do play tonight. They actually last played on Tuesday. They beat up on the Bruins 6-2. For the first time in a long time, we outshot our opponent by a wide margin. 37 shots on goal for us, 18 for the Bruins. They play tonight in Columbus, so I want to say they get to see Mason Marchment, but I do believe that Marchment is dealing with some type of injury, so we will not get to see Mason Marchment tonight. But this is a back-to-back for the Stars as they play again tonight in Columbus. No, I don't want to click on the Avs. If the NHL app would cooperate. Here we go. They have a back-to-back with the Blues. The Blues tomorrow night. And they get 3 days off before they're in St. Louis, day off in Vegas, day off in Utah. So tomorrow night's game against St. Louis, which is at home, is the last home game of January. Before they come back home to start February, they play Monday and Wednesday, February 2nd and 4th, against Winnipeg and St. Louis. So you play St. Louis twice in a pretty short margin. Those are at home. Then you have the Olympic break, which is essentially 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Essentially 3 weeks. So let's see if I can count to three here. I know, hey, it's been a while since I've taken my math classes, but I think I can still count to three. And unlike WWE referees. And then they come home after the winter break, or I guess you're calling it the winter break, it's the Olympic break. And then they have the Kraken at home, a couple days later Nashville at home, and then they go on the road and do some stuff. So that's kind of what the next few weeks are shaping up for the Dallas Stars, who have been kind of, again, in a rut. We talked about it a little bit last week. If you look at the month of January, they opened it with a loss on New Year's Day to Chicago. They lost to Montreal in overtime, lost to Carolina, beat Washington, lost to San Jose in overtime, beat the Kings, but then lost to Anaheim, lost to Utah, and a loss to Tampa Bay before they finally beat the Bruins. So, a bit of a skid here in January. They've not been playing up to scratch. At least they've not been playing up to their standard. And hopefully against Columbus and St. Louis here tonight and tomorrow, they're able to keep the vibes from the Boston game going as I continue to monitor what the Rangers just did. I'm waiting to see what the return is. Whoa. Okay. I don't know how I feel about that. That's... Whoa. Interesting. Again, I know this is not... Sorry, I know there's a lot of dead time right now. I'm trying to figure out, because the Rangers just made a big move, and I'm waiting to see if there's anyone that, I'm like, oh no, about. Anyway, so the Stars have just kind of been in a skid. We know they're not going to make any big moves until after the Olympic break, which is fine. They want to know when Sagan's going to, if he could be back, because again, the new rules, the salary cap does apply to the playoffs. So they want to make sure that they're not, over the salary cap in the playoffs. So I think they're waiting to see what happens there. But, of course, there's been more rumors about Jason Robertson. Look, I know that people are trying to say, oh, there's no way they can keep Robo. In Jim Nill we trust. We don't know what the cap's going to jump up to next year. Very curious to see. Okay. I'm hoping that, Jim Nill's going to add somebody. We did re-add, I guess, Vladislav Kolyachonok from waivers from Boston, ironically. We had to let him go when, I can't remember who came back. Maybe when Harley came back. When someone came back, we had to put him on waivers. Boston claimed we were kind of sad about it. But now he's back, and he's in the AHL with us, so it's good to have Vladdy back. But just kind of hoping that the Stars can keep the winning ways going. For the Mavs, here's what we'll do for the Mavs. I'm going to pause the Mavs segment, and I'm going to pause the Mavs segment, and then when we get to the NFL segment, I'll call Chase. He'll give the Mavs segment because, again, the Mavs, I can give you the record, but I'm not going to be able to give you a ton of comprehensive analysis. I think they've lost more games. Shocker. There's your Mavs segment, but I'll ask him his thoughts about the current state of the Dallas Mavericks because I want to get to the Texas Rangers because that's what I keep going to my phone for, and I know that that's not exactly the most pleasing viewing experience. Okay. So the Texas Rangers, who have been quiet for most of the offseason, outside of interesting trade of Brandon Nimmo, outside of, going out and non-tendering Heim, non-tendering Adolis, bringing in Danny Jansen. They did bring in Jacob Junis. And I liked him. So he's another cheap reliever deal. They're kind of hoping he can replace what I guess Armstrong and those guys gave him. But again, outside of that, outside of Alexis Diaz, I think like Tyler, one of the Scots, someone, a lefty relief pitcher, these pitched for the White Sox, like outside of some stuff, like really, I'm waiting to see. Okay. So the Rangers have been quiet all offseason, but have also talked about. Oh, I liked Fitzgerald. Have made a trade. And the talk has been they're not going for a bat, they're going for an arm. Well, they just went after an arm. Texas Rangers, breaking news, just broke 10 minutes ago, have acquired left-handed starting pitcher Mackenzie Gore from the Washington Nationals. It's a 5-player package going in return to Washington. Gore, really, really talented pitcher. And I think he's still got years of control left, which is probably why it's such an expensive package. Let's see. Hold on. He ARB eligible this year. He's got 2 more years. So 26, 27. Yeah, he's got 2 more years of control. And they might want to lock him up. He's been an all-star. He wasn't, like, if you look at his numbers from last year, they don't really pop out at you. 5-15, a 4.17 ERA, but then you go to the FIP. The FIP was 3.74. He was an all-star. He was really good to start the year. He's been relatively healthy in his career, but he's been a very, very good pitcher. And I love Mackenzie Gore. He's been one of my favorite pitchers in the league. I like watching his starts. Of course, he was a big piece of the Juan Soto deal. But I think the Nationals are kind of viewing it as they have a rebuild coming, and they desperately just need more players besides one pitcher. So we found out that looks like the headliner is former first-round pick Gavin Feen of the Texas Rangers. He's a shortstop. He's a high school pick. We picked him last year, right? I'm not crazy. He was 2020. He was 2025, wasn't he? Like, wasn't he this last year's first-round pick? Yeah, he was picked in 2025. So you're talking about a guy that we had a first round pick on, but he looks like the headliner. Also in the package are Abimelech Ortiz, power hitting first baseman. This one hurts. Pitcher Devin Fitzgerald. That, I know he's been a guy that a lot of people have talked about and really liked. Here comes a really bad one. Now here's the thing. Very talented, has not been healthy. So I don't mind trading him while his value is still a little high. Alejandro Rosario. And one other piece, and this is from Evan Grant, in parentheses, it's not Walcott and it's not Caden Scarborough, which are kind of the two headliners you have. So that's kind of funny. I'm looking to see Gore is a huge get for the Rangers rotation. He's under control through 2027. But given uncertainty for labor situation, this could essentially be 1 year plus if no extension is negotiated. Yeah, because of the whole labor, all the labor stuff, we just don't know. We might not have a baseball season in 2027, so who the hell knows? Very curious to see. I assume this is like the deadline when we could trade for Fiend. I'm waiting to see who the fifth guy is before I continue to talk about it. But I really, really, really like Mackenzie Gore. And now you have, and we've talked about, okay, the rotation is DeGrom, Evaldi. And then Leiter. You can throw Leiter in there. Leiter had a really good season, in my opinion, and especially from what we were expecting. Okay, Rocker is in that mix. Cody Bradford will be coming back late in, around, I think they said May, June, somewhere in there. But you need another starter. Who's going to be that next guy? Like, do you bring back Patrick Corbin? What do you do, right? And I think this is now comfortably your third starter, and that's a hell of a third starter. Would like to have gotten a bat, but, Jacob Latz was kind of thought of as the fifth starter, but now your first four is DeGrom, Evaldi, Gore, Leiter. I like that four. And then it's just, do you want Rocker at the 5? Do you want Latz at the 5? There's a lot of options for the Rangers, and I love it. Personally, I love it. I hate that we had to give up a couple of those guys. I know Fitzgerald's a guy I really like, but you know what? Mackenzie Gore's a hell of a pitcher. So, I don't know that. And Rosario, he's a former top prospect. He kind of still is. The problem is I think he's had like 3 years now of arm injuries. And so can this guy stay healthy? They're striking while the iron is hot, especially when it comes to, So I like this trade for the Rangers. I'm going to try to not, check my phone too much and see. So that's Fiend, Ortiz, Fitzgerald, Rosario. So there's still a fifth guy to know. We don't know who the fifth guy is. Very curious to see who the fifth guy is. Oh, it's Jeremy Cabrera. Wow. He is I want to say he was one of our international signings last year. I know they think highly of him. So that's okay. So the full package is the Texas Rangers have acquired a left-handed pitcher, Mackenzie Gore, in exchange for recent first-round pick Gavin Fiend, shortstop, right-handed pitcher Alejandro Rosario, first baseman outfielder Abimelech Ortiz, infielder, that's right, Fitzgerald's not a pitcher. Who am I thinking of that's the pitcher that has a name like that? I'm wrong, but I know Fitzgerald's a guy that I've seen guys like Jimmy Newberg have liked. Devin Fitzgerald and Jeremy Cabrera is an outfielder. So, you know what? I'm on board. I like it. I like it, CY. Huge fan of that. Of course, in other baseball news, we have to talk about it. Kyle Tucker to the Dodgers. We'll get to that in a second. I know there was a couple others that have happened. Freddie Peralta last night got traded to the Mets. Shocker, big market team gets big time player. I mean, this isn't hard to figure out. The Twins signed Taylor Rogers. Brewers trade Freddie Peralta in exchange and swingman Tobias Myers from the Brewers for prospects Jet Williams and Brandon Sproat. I know Sproat's a guy that they really, really like. He, flashed last year in a couple starts, and then Jet Williams is a guy I know they also really, really like. So, but to get Freddie Peralta, to get an ace, that's a big deal for the Mets. The Yankees re-signed Cody Bellinger to a 5 years, $162.5 million guarantee, no deferrals, $20 million signing bonus. The Angels re-signed Yoan Moncada. Is there anything else that's like Mets signed Luis Garcia? Of course, Dodgers signed Kyle Tucker. It's 4 years, $240 million. All but receives a $64 million signing bonus, all but $10 million of which is paid up front and can opt out after the second or third seasons. So it looks like that they'll owe. They're not paying on their payroll. It's signing bonus. It doesn't count towards the payroll, to my knowledge. And, of course, the Red Sox signed Ranger Suarez, 5 years, $130 million. It's a big deal for them to get, a top pitcher put next to Garrett Crochet. Carlos Beltran and Andrew Jones elected to the Hall of Fame. That's really cool. Those were kind of the two guys that I think a lot of people expected to be on there. Andrew Jones, one of the best defensive center fielders of all time, also have over 400 career home runs. Definitely deserving of a Hall of Fame nod. But Beltran, one of the best switch hitters of the 20th. He might be the best switch hitter of the 21st century, if it's not Chipper Jones. Fantastic player, 5 tools. Don't believe of course he won a World Series with the Astros, but kind of cheated. So, and he was kind of the ringleader of that. So, but Mets signed Bo Bichette. Orioles signed former Rangers top prospect Hans Kraus to a minor league deal. Of course, the Rangers signed Jacob Junis. That's kind of the Braves signed Jorge Mateo. There's really nothing else. Ryan Presley announced his retirement, and I saw he's taking a coaching job with the Twins. Just kind of looking at everything. The Phillies re-signed JT Realmuto. Twins signed Victor Caratini. Marlins claimed Osvaldo Bido. I like him. That's why I mentioned that. Rockies signed Willie Castro to a 2-year deal. Reds signed Pierce Johnson. The Rockies signed Michael Lorenzen. And that looks like everybody. That Marlins trade Ryan Weathers to the Yankees. That's about. And then, of course, the Cardinals traded Nolan Arenado to the Diamondbacks. So a lot of things happening in baseball. And finally, the Rangers get in on one of them, which makes me very, very happy. But I'm very excited about this trade. And didn't have to give up Walcott or anybody else. And that's a good return for the Nationals. They could get 2 or 3 at least impact players just from that deal. Yeah, big deal. All right, so going to look at the Rangers. I think that's kind of the Rangers segment. Don't need to talk about much else. Now I'm going to get into the Cowboys because the Cowboys had breaking news. A lot of breaking news today, ladies and gentlemen. Breaking news, the Dallas Cowboys have hired a new defensive coordinator. Now, I want to talk a little bit about this search because we haven't really talked a ton in the last week. Of course, week-to-week show. Have had a lot more thoughts percolating in my brain over the last week. And I felt that the worst-case scenario was the Broncos winning because then you can't talk to Jim Leonard. And we knew that they had a lot of interest in Jim Leonard. Another team that has a lot of interest in Jim Leonard is the New York Giants. And, of course, one thing that we did not talk about last week because I completely forgot, it was the first one of the new, semester. A lot of things to cover winter break. Completely forgot about the head coaching vacancies. Well, the Giants filled theirs and had filled theirs before last week. And that was John Harbaugh, formerly of the Baltimore Ravens. Of course, a CEO-type head coach who didn't call plays. Looks like Todd Monken's going to be his OC. But that doesn't mean, Okay, I don't know if that showed up on everybody else's screen. Something like weird popped up on the screen, and that's why I was like, whoa. There's still kind of a square. It's like right here, and I don't know if Where is it? Right there. And I don't know if you guys can see it, but if you can, I'm very sorry. I don't know how to make it go away. Yeah, I'm not gonna click anything because I don't want to, and the computer crashes. Don't want to redo this. It felt like that the Giants would have interest in Leonard because Leonard played for John Harbaugh. Harbaugh basically told his entire defensive staff, with the exception of Charlie Bullen, who was the interim defensive coordinator for the Giants, to clean out their desks. And that was essentially the message. And he still needed a defensive coordinator. Leonard actually has ties to Bullen as well at Illinois. So it looks like, reading the tea leaves, that's a pretty logical spot for Jim Leonard. What the Cowboys didn't want to do is wait next week, and you're hoping to get Jim Leonard, and then he decides to go to the Giants. And then you look to your other, they really had four main candidates. Leonard, Vikings passing game coordinator, Daronte Jones, Eagles DB coach and passing game coordinator, Christian Parker, and former Eagles defensive coordinator and former Arizona head coach, Jonathan Gannon. And I listed those in the way, I think, how I was interested in them and what I thought the Cowboys were leaning. However, it felt like that if the Giants or someone else, probably the Giants, go for Leonard, Cowboys go, okay, we'll pivot to Daronte or we'll pivot to Parker. Well, we know the Packers had a lot of interest in Christian Parker. He worked with Matt LaFleur. He actually interviewed in 2024 for their defensive coordinator job, and they didn't hire him. They went with Jeff Hafley, who's now in Miami. So we know that other teams, and I know like the Giants and a couple other teams, I think, have interviewed Daronte Jones. So we know that the other two big candidates that we like, they're being interviewed by other teams. As when you interview good candidates, not Mike Zimmer, Rex Ryan, Ron Rivera, Matt Eberflus. When you interview true top candidates, it means that other teams are going to be interested in them too. What I think the Cowboys didn't want was to interview Leonard a second time and to try to get him, and then he leaves, and then they go to pivot to Daronte or Parker, and two other teams have, the Packers scooped up Christian Parker and I don't know, some other team scoops up, the Commanders scoop up Daronte Jones, for example. I'm just as an example. I think Al Harris is going there, but just as an example, right? And then now you're left with Jonathan Gannon. That's not a great situation. And I think Jonathan Gannon was their safety net. He was their comfortable, if the other three guys don't come there, they're going to go with Gannon. And I think that they liked Leonard and Parker the most, looking at it now. And they decided to go Parker because they didn't want to wait to interview Leonard again. They wanted to get on it. Now Parker can spend the next week getting his staff, getting the D-line coach, getting the run game, all the linebackers coach, and the DB coach, and his passing game coordinator, and getting all these important positions. It was very important, I think, that they go ahead and get this done by the end of this week. And they did. And it's Christian Parker, new defensive coordinator of your Dallas Cowboys. I love it. I want to go ahead and say that. I love this hire. And why do I love it? Well, number one, a lot of other teams, a lot of other coaches, highly touted coaches like this guy. That tells me he has a good reputation. The thinking, and it sounds like that the whispers from around the league are, this guy's he's probably going to be a head coach one day. This guy is, maybe a young defensive mastermind. There's a quote from somewhere, John Owning, the wonderful John Owning, posted a snippet of an article, I don't know where the article is from, about Christian Parker. And I have to go find it now, but I'm going to find it. Talking about what he did. Of course, I'm not finding it now. But that basically he was like the eyes and the ears for his defensive staff, and that he would help make adjustments, and that he would have, he was really good at making the adjustments, but also he had a really good memory and how to attack a team. And, that's kind of what you're looking for when it comes to a new defensive coordinator. Well, I'm not finding it, but basically, that's funny. I love this hire. It's so well-respected around the league. Big deal for me. You have a guy that is, he's young, he's up and coming, he's got experience in multiple different coaching trees. I'm going to go look at his coaching experience real quick to kind of give you an example of where he's been. But he's recently been with Vic Fangio, who's kind of thought of as, a guy that, he's good, he's cool, but he's been as a head coach. But that when you get him as a he's better as a coordinator, he's kind of in the Steve Spagnuolo role, where it's like, sure, you could hire him as your head coach, but he kind of likes being just the do-everything defensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles. Same thing with Jim Schwartz. You're kind of seeing this pop up, especially when it comes to defensive coordinators. Here is Christian Parker. He was the defensive backs coach at Virginia State, 2013-2014. Norfolk State defensive backs coach, 2015-2016. Notre Dame defensive analyst, 2017. Texas A&M defensive analyst, 2018. Defensive quality control coach for the Packers, 2019-2020. He was the Broncos defensive backs coach, 2021 to 2023. Philadelphia Eagles passing game coordinator, defensive backs coach, 2024 and 2025. And now recently hired Cowboys defensive coordinator, 2026 present. So looking at his coaching career, he shifted from corners to the DBs coach from the Packers. That's what it was. He was a defensive quality control coach for the Packers in 2019. While with Green Bay, he assisted defensive coordinator Mike Pettin in breaking down film on opponents and coordinating the scout team. So he was in the booth, and when Pettin wanted to know, hey, when they were in this offensive look, what were we in? Oh, we were in this, and here's the kind of success we had. He's good at that, and that makes me excited. But he took the step up for Vic Fangio. He's kind of been their back end guy. Obviously, won a Super Bowl. Coached Kenyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, and of course, the debate is raging. Can he take credit for Cooper DeJean and Kenyon Mitchell? It's like, well, no, because both of those guys were thought of as first-round talents, right, going into the draft. But at the same time, you can't just say that, oh, well, yeah, he's also a really good coach and he deserves credit for making them go from top-end talent and not being a bust. Both things can be true. They can be great players. Great coaches need great players. And great players need great coaches. This isn't difficult to understand. Two things can be true. He can be a great coach and responsible for them being great at the pro level, or partially responsible. And because they're great, that can be partially responsible. Both things can be true, Cowboys fans. It's annoying, but it looks like that Cooper DeJean, had something to say, or he was like, this is awesome for the Cowboys. What did he say? He didn't say that. Man, they got a great one. Wouldn't be the player I am without CP. So, of course, being Christian Parker. Very excited about this. Since 2017, Christian Parker, here's the defensive minds that he's worked under. Mike Elko at Notre Dame, and then Elko brought him to A&M. Mike Pettin, Vic Fangio in Denver. Ejiro Evero, Denver. Vance Joseph, Denver. And back with Fangio in Philadelphia. He's ready. Obviously going to bring a lot of that cover 6, cover 3 stuff that they like to run. Cover 1, a lot of the single high stuff that they love to run in Philadelphia. But here's the thing, and I was thinking about this last night, and I was conversing last night about this. Not on, of course, the podcast. We don't do a podcast, but kind of conversing about this and thinking that, okay, you hire Jonathan Gannon, you can go watch film on Gannon and see, okay, here's what he does defensively, right? When we hired Flus, I went and watched a couple Bears games just to kind of see what is he going to bring to Dallas. What was he doing, right? Of course, he might make some small adjustments. Same thing with Gannon. He might have made some small adjustments, but, I'm not worried about, not worried about it. Let's just kind of figure out the main things he's going to be bringing, right? Same thing with Zimmer, same thing with Dan Quinn. You could go back and watch the film and say, okay, here's kind of what he's going to bring. The gist, at least. But with Leonard, Jones, and, of course, Parker, so now I'm just going to say Parker, you can go and watch the Fangio defenses and try to go, okay, well, he might bring this, but he might do things differently, right? You can say, here's the philosophy that he, has been in the last couple of seasons, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to bring exactly this to Dallas, right? He might put his own spin. He might love to blitz more than Fangio does. He might like to blitz less. He might like to run more man. He might like to run more cover two. I don't know what he's going to do. It gives you the edge because now we can kind of guess, okay, he's from this coaching tree. He's probably going to do some things like this, right? Maybe more of the five-man fronts, which we're built for, by the way, with 3 defensive tackles and Ezraku. But I'm excited about this hire. He's got a great reputation, and I like that we got it done now so that way we can spend this next week bringing in some hires. I would love to be able to say, oh, here's who I want to hire for every position coach. I have to imagine that maybe Aaron Whitecotton comes back as your defensive line coach, but Parker might say, look, I like this guy. I don't know what he's going to do. But let me go ahead and call Chase, get him on, and he can talk about the Mavs, but we're going to have him talk about the Cowboys because that's kind of what we're on right now. And then we'll go from Cowboys to Mavs, then back to football, talking about other stuff. But let me call him here. Bluetooth. Got to get the Rodecaster. Here we go. Hopefully he's off his call. And we'll get his thoughts about Mackenzie Gore as well. We will talk about the head coaches and everything that's been going on, but if he's still on his call, we'll pivot to the head coaches because I don't necessarily need him. Okay.
How's it going?
Chase, you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, are you off your call, I assume, hopefully?
Yes, I am.
All right. Well, I don't know if you've been watching the show the last couple minutes, but we've covered a lot.
I have not. I typically do when I do call in, but I have not because I got off my call like 5 minutes ago.
I can't even get my co-host to watch the show, guys. Come on, this is ridiculous. Anyway, I wanted to bring you on as soon as possible so that way we could talk about more. I could have you on for more stuff as well. The show does flow better when I have someone to talk to because it's just myself. I'm just bouncing ideas off myself and the camera. We'll start with what we've been talking about, which is the Dallas Cowboys hiring a new defensive coordinator, Christian Parker, the defensive backs coach and passing game coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles. Kind of what I've been saying is that last night, I was thinking about how we can guess how he might run things, as opposed to a guy like Jonathan Gannon, or when we hired Flus or Zimmer or Quinn. You can go in and watch the film and, okay, well, this guy called plays here, so we know how he's going to probably call plays here. Parker's never called plays, right?
Right.
And so he's helped with adjustments and stuff in game, and I was just talking about that. Like when he was in Green Bay under defensive coordinator Mike Pettin, he was the guy in the booth that was like telling he was like an analyst for them, but he was the guy he coordinated the scout team, and he was the guy helping them make adjustments from the booth. So he'd be like, all right, they're running this a lot. We might want to switch to this. Hey, that's kind of what he was doing. And they said that he had a really good memory and that he was very intelligent and all those things. So I love the hire.
I do too.
I've been fine with him, Leonard, or Durante Jones. Those are kind of my three. I was just hoping that we didn't.
Same here.
I was hoping that Jerry didn't have a senior moment and go Jonathan Gannon. And we were all going to cry because, and not that Gannon's bad. I also was thinking about this, too. It's not that Gannon is a bad hire or would have been a bad hire. It's an uninspiring hire. This is a critical offseason for the Dallas Cowboys. You need to hit on free agency, trades, re-signing, the draft, everything. You need to hit on everything. But it starts with who you hire on the defensive side of the football. You need to set the tone of the offseason. Is this going to be the same old Cowboys? Or is this going to be a new Cowboys led by Brian Schottenheimer, where they're going to do real football things instead of Jerry World football things? And Jerry World football things was Jonathan Gannon. It's not that he's a bad coach. I think we could have been fine under him. It would have been better than Flus. But number one, why are we settling for, well, at least he's better than Matt Eberflus? That's not exactly the line that I want to go under, right? I would like to be a lot better than Matt Eberflus. But it would have been a very Cowboys uninspiring, yippee, it's uninspiring. It doesn't set the tone well. Not that he's a bad coach, but it wouldn't have been, it would have sent the message that it's going to be the same old Cowboys.
Yep.
But now we can firmly think this is Brian Schottenheimer doing this. I saw a thing, and I thought the same. I actually thought this before I saw the tweet, but I'm happy I saw the tweet because it confirmed what I thought, which is, Jerry Jones probably had no idea who Christian Parker was 2 weeks ago.
Sure.
He'd probably never heard of the guy because Jerry doesn't follow these things. So he's never been drinking buddies or sleepover buddies with Jerry Jones, so he doesn't know who he is. But I think that Brian Schottenheimer kind of led this search, and I think Brian Schottenheimer did a good job. And I know people are still kind of angry they didn't want to interview Brian Flores. I think everyone around the league kind of knew that unless he takes a head coaching gig, he's going back to Minnesota. And in fact, that's what his new contract with Minnesota says, is that it's an extension contingent upon he doesn't take a head coaching job. So if he goes to Pittsburgh or if he goes to Las Vegas or whatever, that he will go back to Minnesota, which is kind of what we all thought. But I'm a big fan of this. Christian Parker, I'm sure you are too. But you have the floor.
I'm very happy with it. Not only, like you said with Gannon, just would have been whatever. But with Parker, he's a young guy. He's more modern, and that's what.
I think
that's
34.
What I feel like this team, huh?
I think he's 34. Yeah.
34 years old. Like that's what this team needed. Just some youth in the coaching side of the field. But I'm very happy with it. And if you look at his resume, where he started out in Green Bay, part of the development of Jair Alexander.
Yeah.
Then went to Denver, part of the development of Pat Surtain. Then he's in Philadelphia for the last 2 years, part of the development of Kenyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. He's got a great resume. And it kind of leads me to think, well, if Delane's on the board, there's no way he falls past 12, just with the current history of Christian Parker. So I'm very happy with it. I think it's a good hire. It's a different hire. It feels like they really took their time and research instead of just settling. So I'm very happy with the hire, and I'm looking forward to next season.
This is from John Owning. Again, I've talked about him before, but every piece you read on Christian Parker details his incredible memory and note-taking process. He's going to prove to be an invaluable resource for Shoddy and Dak going up against Fangio in the future. So, again, just talking about how this guy is very detail-oriented. He takes, I love it.
And I saw a list of like the percentages of like the coverages that he throws out.
Whoa, that's Fangio. Remember, like I was just saying, we don't know.
I guess suggestions.
Parker might run the exact same thing Fangio's running, but he's also been under guys like Mike Pettin, and he's been under Vance Joseph and Fangio, and Mike Elko at A&M. So, I'm not. Wait a second. He wouldn't have been under Elko at A&M unless Elko was the defensive coordinator at the time, because that was like 2018. Anyway, point is, I'll look into that. There was a guy I trust that I saw that said that, so I assumed that maybe Elko was the defensive coordinator at A&M and then went to Duke and then came back to A&M. That's what I'm assuming happened. Anyway, we can guess what he might run, but I think this actually lends the Cowboys, the old fog of war kind of mentality of we don't know what he's going to run specifically. He might run the same thing. He might change it up a little bit. He's probably going to have his own spin on things, which means that when teams are thinking, okay, right, you think, okay, Vic Fangio, he likes blank. So, I'll go use Dan Quinn because I know Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn likes tall, long corners, right? He likes size. He likes, taller safeties. He likes, fast linebackers. He likes, defensive tackles that are like Mozzie, that are just big and slow, and he likes good edges. And we can kind of tell what, a Dan Quinn type of draft pick or a player looks like. Gus Bradley, right? Just, he likes the tall, Zimmer likes tall, long corners. And, there are some teams that don't care about that. Everyone has, even the Cowboys, they only like to draft corners that have under 30 inches arms, have sub 30 inch arms. They like long corners. They have before Dan Quinn. That's not just got hit. So every team has like a blueprint. But with Parker, you don't know what the blueprint is. Exactly. You can guess, and teams are going to. So I'm very curious to see if free agent Nakobe Dean looks at, we look into him. I'm very excited by this hire. I love it. And actually, I saw a thing today, and I'm going to have to look at if it's true, but I'm pretty sure that if he's here for at least 2 years and then takes a head coaching gig, per the NFL rules, because he's a minority hire, we would get 2 third-round comp picks for him leaving. So I like that, too. So it's like, even if he leaves, you're fine. You're okay. You're all good. But
who do we get those picks from?
I think that's just, at the back end of the third round. That's where comp picks start. The highest comp picks you can get are third-round comp picks.
Okay.
They'd be like, picks 99, pick 100, somewhere in that range. Sure. I think, so that's, there's a contingency plan. So Steven gets his precious comp picks, like Gollum, his precious.
Yeah.
But he's 34. I don't anticipate he's going to get a head coaching gig. Like, even if he turns the defense around, I don't see a team wanting to hire a 1-year defensive coordinator as a head coach. He's probably going to be here for 2 to 3 years.
Hope so.
Which is perfect. It's exactly the range you want. So I'm very excited for this. But because of a time crunch, we're going to go ahead and move on to the Rangers. Just quick, what are your thoughts on the Mackenzie Gore trade?
I love it. I mean, looks like we gave up a haul. I mean, I only know Fiend.
Okay,
and I saw that Fitzgerald had a high. He was looked highly upon.
Everybody likes
scouters.
him. Everybody likes him.
So I mean, it definitely looks like we gave up a haul, but Gore's an all-star pitcher. He's got really good stuff.
Look,
and we knew that he needed another pitcher, and they went out and got one.
Look,
I'm happy. I think it's a good trade.
Fiend's a first-round shortstop. Alejandro Rosario's a top pitcher prospect, but he can't stay healthy. Abby Ortiz, I know you know who Ortiz is. He's the guy that's like mashing home runs AAA.
I feel like I know the name.
Devin Fitzgerald, highly touted guy, and then Yeremy Cabrera was, I believe, an international signing not too long ago. He's really young, to my knowledge. I'm gonna go ahead and look him up. But yeah, I know that. I'm sure you're a big fan of this. I knew you'd be a big fan of this.
Yeah, 100%. I just want a bat now, and I'm set. I'm ready for the season to get a bat. I'm ready.
Well, and of course, the interesting thing comes to, do we want to? I said I'd circle back to it. And I'm going to follow through on my promise here. Kyle Tucker, the owners are definitely going to push for a salary cap now. Like absolutely, they're going to push for one. And the players are not having it. So, like, Bryce Harper, went to choke out Manfred in the locker room when Manfred, was suggesting it. So, we're not going to have baseball in 2027. I'm already telling you right now.
Yeah.
We're not going to have baseball in 2020. Enjoy this season, boys, because baseball is going to be very different when it comes back, if it comes back. This is a big. Yeah, Yeremy Cabrera, he signed. We signed him for just $10,000 out of the DR, 2022. So it was a few years ago. He's 20 years old. He's fast. He's got some pop. He's an outfielder. He's ranked 16th. So here's the top 30 list. Going down, looking at it, Abby Ortiz is ranked 18th. Yeremy Cabrera is ranked 16th. Devin Fitzgerald is ranked 12th. Alejandro Rosario is ranked 6th, and Gavin Fiend is ranked 2nd. So it's a haul, but you don't mind giving it up for this guy. Mackenzie Gore, a hell of a pitcher.
Mackenzie Gore had a great start to last season too, after coming off his best season, and it kind of went down to like, I think he finished with like a 4 ERA or something like that. He didn't have the best second half of the season. But you don't trade for someone based off of a half season of, bad progression.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy with it. We know what he can do. He's been an all-star. So yeah, like I said,
That's the thing is,
I don't know what bats are still out there.
everyone's talking about Gore, and you give Gavin Feen, he's your number 2 prospect. Yeah, so was like Malcolm Moore being a first-round pick, and now he's dropped to 11th. So like,
Yeah.
Feen hasn't really seen any time with us. He was at Hickory last year, played 10 games, batted .220, didn't hit a home run, 3 doubles, a triple. Like, looked fine, I guess, but like, he's got a cup of coffee at A-ball. So we don't know he's number 2 because he was a first-round pick. A lot of that ranking is still based on what he was coming out of high school. In 3 years, he could be a big bust. We don't know. But anyway, moving back to the last, do you have anything big for the Mavs?
Rich Paul came out today, the big NBA agent, but Anthony Davis' agent, said that he wants the Mavs to trade him before the trade deadline. Now, again, that's not up to him. I mean, Mavs don't have to listen. But Rich Paul said that he wants and expects Anthony Davis to be traded before the deadline. So there's that. That's it. Kyrie is very close to a return.
Good. Good. That's very good.
Sources Mavs Instagram, just taking pictures of him practicing and running full speed in practice. Don't know if we're going to have a game on Saturday because of this potential weather we're going to be experiencing.
Yeah.
But Luka does return home tomorrow. Tomorrow they travel here, so I'm sure he'll be at his house tomorrow night. Because he has not sold the house. He's still, whenever he's in Dallas, he will be at his house. But my dad is going to go to the game. He got invited by some friends. So I know he wants to go. I'm not going. But hopefully they'll be able to play just so Luka can kill us and the entire fan base can root for him. Because that's always,
Yeah.
that's always I'm looking forward to now. Just when Luka comes into town, how the crowd reacts. But that's about it for the Mavs.
A couple more things for the NFL, then we gotta get to the games. Jeff Hafley, new head coach of the Miami Dolphins. You know what? He's the Aaron Glenn for me in this cycle, where everyone is telling me, "Oh my God, I don't see it." It's the same thing with Glenn. I never thought Glenn's defenses were all that good. I really didn't. I know that might sound crazy to some people. I just was never impressed with what I saw from Aaron Glenn. And everyone's like, yeah, the Jets is going to be the savior. And I'm like, is it? Really? Same thing with the Dolphins. Jeff Hafley? Really? This is the guy? I mean, the second, and I know that it's Micah Parsons. I get that. But the second you lose your star player, you can't call a defense? Like, suddenly, to me, if you're nothing without one player, you got problems. Big problems. No, 3 or 4. I know they had some other injuries on defense. I'm just saying that not the biggest fan of Jeff Hafley. And so, but hey, fine, Dolphins. I don't care about the Dolphins. In fact, I don't like their owner. So screw him. If he wants to hire he's not a very good person. I'm cool with it. Whatever. Robert Saleh to the Titans. Love that. I love Saleh. I thought that he got a bad rep.
5-year deal too.
I thought he got a bad rep, and look, it's the Jets. They could hire Belichick, and it wouldn't work out. I mean, it's the Jets. Come on now.
I'm just interested to see about how he develops Cam Ward.
It's all going to matter who. And it sounds like that as long as he doesn't take the Bills' job, it's going to be Daboll being the OC, which is perfect. That'd be amazing for Cam Ward.
Yeah.
Good
for the Titans, and I 100% expect the Titans to draft receiver with their first pick.
I'm a big fan of Saleh. I could see, it kind of strikes me as defensive coach with a young quarterback wants to go ahead and, his thought process is
leading offense.
Yeah, leading
everything.
I can handle the defense. I'll go in. I'll give my new OC a top offensive pick, but I like that hire. John Harbaugh kind of talked about that. It does a couple things. Number one, I don't think that it's going to mean a Super Bowl for the Giants, but I do think that it brings them to a level of respectableness. Is that a
Yeah.
word? You know,
Sure. I know
after
what you're trying to say.
after the Pat Shermers and I'm gonna forget the other guy, and then Joe Judge and Ben McAdoo, and I like Dayball. I just think that I think Joe Shine needs to go, but I think Harbaugh brings stability. I think he has skins on the wall. He has a reputation. I think that there is plenty of reason to like John Harbaugh with the New York Giants. I think he gets them moving in the right direction.
Yeah. It scares me, though, because he loves his safeties, and Downs at 5 will most likely be there.
Yeah, but
I don't
they
wanna face
they
Downs
need they
time
need
of
to
the
get
year.
with Malik Neighbors coming off an injury. They have no other receivers.
Yeah, I mocked them, Jordan Tyson, actually.
They have no receivers besides Neighbors because Neighbors is hurt. He's coming back from an ACL tear. They could go. They have so many needs that they could go with. They've got their quarterback, I think, and they've got some. That's the thing is, I think they might look at it as we have defensive playmakers. We've drafted Kayvon Thibodeau. We've drafted Abdul Carter. We traded for Brian Burns. We've drafted Dexter Lawrence. Can we stop investing first round picks in the defense and start investing some in the offense? I think it's going to be their thinking. What scares me is the Commanders because Dan Quinn likes his safeties too, and I actually think the Jets should draft Downs at 2. He's the best player in the draft. You have nothing else. Go with it. But
Yeah,
we'll see.
I mean,
Point is,
I definitely agree, but they're going Reese.
point is, what we think. Might not.
Yeah.
Is there any other hires that have been made? I think that's it right now.
Could be big.
Of course, Mike
Mike
McDaniel.
McDaniel went to the Chargers
Yeah.
as an OC.
And then it does sound
Which is
like
great.
that the Steelers might be circling in on Mike McCarthy as their new head coach, which would be really funny because that'd mean McCarthy. Like, if you think of name the name the top 3 legacy franchises in the NFL. Good chance you name Packers, Cowboys, Steelers, and that's who he would have hired. Which would be crazy. That would be absolutely insane. So, kind of a fan of that for them. But moving on, last thing we got to talk about is the games. Of course, the Bills, big deal. Thought Brandon Cooks caught it, whatever.
Definitely was a catch, by the way.
But then post game, Jarrett Stidham's on the starting quarterback. Bo Nix got hurt. Never seen this before, where it's just like you're high off the win and then boom, back to reality. So it'll be Patriots at Broncos, AFC Championship game. Stop, you've heard that before. And then Rams at Seahawks for the NFC Championship game. I'm taking the Pats and the Seahawks, Chase. I'm up 3 because we split again last week. So you cannot beat me. You can only tie me, and the only way you can even tie me is to disagree with me.
Yeah, I have to go Broncos Rams.
So you are?
Yeah, I have to. Broncos Rams.
Well, but
I'm fully on Pat Seahawks.
I'm about to say if you were
I can't confidently take the Broncos with no Nick.
Jarrett Stidham, yeah. But it's gonna be look, I think the Patriots are gonna slaughter them. And then I think the Seahawks are going to handle the Rams pretty well. But you never know. McVay can figure out that defense. But it's going to be a good championship
it was a great
weekend.
game the first time they matched up.
It's going to be a good championship weekend, Chase. What are your – I'll go ahead and let you close it out for us. I've talked a lot today.
I'm looking forward to it. I think it's just a good game. I mean, the last Rams-Seahawks game that we got was the 38-37 overtime thriller in Seattle. So, I mean, it clear to show that Rams can compete in Seattle with them. But again, for the Broncos game, I mean, I don't know. Stidham has 4 career starts. You just have no idea what you're going to expect.
Yeah.
And I do. I mean, look, I know it's kind of it's a weird statement to say. Look, it's just one position. It's the quarterback. But I do think that they have all the still a ton of they still have the same defense, that lockdown defense. They still have. They're actually getting J.K. Dobbins back. It looks like. With R.J. Harvey, Cortland Sutton. I mean, They still have Sean Payton coaching them. I mean, nothing's changing outside of the quarterback position, and they're at home. I mean, I still think they can win the game for sure. It's just we just don't really know what to expect. But I'm looking forward to the games. I think it should be some good games. I really hope they're good games because it's the conference championships. You want to see some good games to earn your ticket to the Super Bowl. But no, I'm looking forward to the games and Yeah, I gotta go against you for the rest of the way. So Rams, Broncos, I'm rooting for them.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you guys next week when we preview the Super Bowl for 2 weeks. Actually, being
And I
previewed.
will try to be here all the time. Most likely be in the studio
Cool.
next week. So
All right, we will see you
I
guys,
will-
and
yeah.
hopefully the Cowboys can have made some hires maybe at their position coaches. We'll see. We will talk.